Hello, second graders. Welcome to a new social study lesson. We still in chapter 2, lesson 3 in our Exploring Who We Are book. So please open your book, page 68. Just let's remember what we studied. We studied grid maps, we studied about the map tools, and we know that they help us to find locations of places. Today we will be learning about the land, how to help us to understand how people live and where they do. So over there, we can see that this is a city. I can see tall buildings. I can see traffic, lots of people. Here, we can see that this is different land that people, not many people there. Also, over here, I can see that this is green land that could be a field or farms or plantations. So this is different kinds of communities in a different parts of these pictures or different lands. Let's start. All right. How we use the land. A community is a place where people live, work, learn, and have fun together. So we know that, and that's why we say in our community, we have lots of things. We have parks, we have stores, we have schools, we have library, we have supermarkets. We have everything in a community. So when we have a good community, that's where people work and live and enjoy the time together. Earth, land, or water can affect how and where people make communities. There are three kinds of communities. In the urban communities or the cities where people live close to each other. So there are a lot of things close by to see and to do. So that's urban. You can see tall buildings, busy streets, traffic, museums, lots of good things that you can do and visit in the city. In suburban communities, people often drive to do their shopping or to go to a movie. So things are spread out. It's not too close. It's not packed. It's not busy. So people will drive a little longer distance than the city or than the urban to go to a store or to go to a special movie theater or something. Homes and business are farther apart than in the city, as we see on this part. The rural communities are far away from cities. So if we look at the rural, and this is the city or the urban, so kind of far away, there is a lot of an open land. People may drive to a nearby town to shop. So people live in the rural land could drive probably an hour or so to go to the closest city or the closest town so they can do their shopping or to visit an amusement park or something. All right, so in this community, we know a community is where people live together and work and have all what they need. So we learn also three different communities: the urban, which is like cities; suburban, with the communities that people are far away from the city and they need to do a little extra driving to go to their shopping or to do their daily routines. And then the rural, where they are far from the city, that people need to drive to further to go to the first town to visit, as we say, big shopping mall or something. All right, look, read the labels. What do the labels tell you? So what do you think this label, how we use land? It showed me that there are different lands, different type of lands. Circle part of the picture you can name. So we have the three labels or three pictures. All right, so now we learned that urban, the city or the busy part that usually you see big tall building, bridges, big tall museums and city traffic, streets, and people that are living close to each other. All right. So now let's see our activity, page 72, cause and effects. All right, so go back to the picture, read the text, read the captions under the picture or the labels for the picture, and let's see what can we answer here. Cause, people live close to things in urban communities. So urban communities, people live together or live close to each other. So what's the effect? It's easy to commute or to move around, right? Easy to get things. Let's write this down. Because people live close to things in urban communities. So what's the effect? That's it's easy to get what they need, or easy to visit places and to move around. All right. The second one, we have the effect, people drive to town. So what do you think the cause? Why people will drive to town? Very good, because rural community, so rural communities are far, as we saw in the previous page, far from cities. So they need to drive longer distance in order to do their shopping or to go to the movies, for example. So that was a cause, and we have the effect, people drive to town. All right, let's go for page 73 and see the activity we have. We have cause and effect, the chart that we'll use to use it now. So we have the first one is done. We need to look for 2 causes and 2 effects for this causes. First one that's done, there is not a lot of water in an area. People use less water. So that's the cause. Not many water or not much water around in this area. So people use less water. All right, so let's now read and find out. Okay. How does geography affect the way people use land? Regions of the United States. In the United States, there are different regions or large areas with common features. People live differently based on their region. Where we live helps make us who we are. Look at the map. Which region do you live in? Use the map region to help you. What is the land like in your region? So over here, you can see they show you places. So we live here in California. So the weathers are different than if you're living in a different parts. We have deserts, we have mountain, we have beaches. So different region get different features, like probably other places have heavy forests. We also have forests and have mountains. Maybe other lands don't get as much beaches as we have in California. All right, community resources. People everywhere use their environment. People everywhere use their environment to meet their needs. So we have, they use land and other resources in different ways. For example, people everywhere use water, but how they use it, it's a different. People in areas that do not have a lot of water try to use less of it. So that was one of the causes that we saw before. People divide land for different uses. They build factories in one area and homes in another. They may have farms on some land and parks in other places. Some communities have rich soil, so they might build more farms. Others are near ocean, so they might build ships. When people use the land in these ways, they change it. So where people live affects how they have fun outdoors. So people like over, for example, nearby mountain and cold weather, they can do lots of skiing. People living nearby beaches, they will be doing lots of water activities. People in the city, they will be doing also activities that related to the city, probably indoor, or they need to drive to do some other activities outdoor. All right, urban communities. A city is an urban community. It has many buildings and streets. It has apartments, houses, factories, and stores. The buildings in a city are often close together. Sometimes they are very tall. Many people live in urban communities. They work, go to school, and have fun. Lots of people live close together in cities. Sometimes cities are crowded. In a city, much of the land is covered with buildings and roads. But cities also have parks where people can have picnic, play sports, and enjoy nature. So that's one community or urban communities. We know it's busy, there are lots of tall buildings, lots of factories, and maybe less space for people to do lots of outdoor, but still, parks that the communities provide for people to enjoy their outdoor time. Suburban communities. The suburb is a community next to a city. The suburb community uses land for homes, business, and schools. Buildings are not as close together as they are in a city. So as you can see, there's big spaces. People have front yards, backyards. The streets are not that crowded and busy like in a city. There may be more parks and open areas, so people can go for outdoor picnics or outdoor activities. And of course, less crowded as a city. Some people live in a suburb and work in the city. They drive to the city or take a bus or train. So people don't want to probably living in a crowded area, or also in the city is a bit expensive. So they would rather live in a suburb, but they take transportation or drive to go to their work or school. Rural communities. Rural communities are farther from the city and the suburbs. They have fewer buildings, as you see, more open land, fewer people living in the rural areas. Houses in the rural communities are often far apart, as you see. People use the land to raise animals and grow crops on farms. People in all kinds of communities change the land around them. People build homes, business, and other buildings that provide service for them. They build roads to get from place to place. They dig up fields to plant crops, and they put dams on rivers to hold water. So regardless what community or people live, they do changes that helps people to get what they need. So as we see the difference between communities that they help people to have outdoor activities or to help people to commute or move, or like in a city or in a rural communities or in a suburb. So as we see here, the urban, where they're kind of crowded and busy, and streets are busy with people, buildings, stores, but they all at the end they enjoy try to have an outdoor area to enjoy their time. All right, let's go now and see what we have here. So remember, we said it's causes and effects. So we have the first one, there is not a lot of water in an area. So people, when they have issue like that or problem like that, they tend to use less water. So they use less water. Also, for another cause, for example, suburbs are not so crowded like the city. So that's also something that people sometimes enjoy and don't mind to drive from the suburbs to the city or to their works, because they like to have more land. So if we talked about suburbs. We know that are not as crowded as the cities. So that's a cause. And what's the effect of that? There are more parks and open space, of course, for people to enjoy. So there are more parks and open space. Okay. So let's go for one more effect. People need to get from place to place, and that's why they change the land around them, either by building more roads, more buildings, or more factories. It depends where they stay or where they are living. So we can say that people need to get from place to place So what's the effect for that? That people change the land around them. Change around where they live. So now we have the cause and effects. First one, there is not a lot of water in an area, so that's why people use less water. We learned also, or we can have that the suburbs are not as crowded as cities, so there are more parks and more open space. And as we saw in the picture, there was more less buildings and more space between houses, and streets are not as busy and crowded like the city. We also had another cause. People need to get from place to place, and in order to have that, the fact that people change the land that they're living around, so they build more streets, more roads, and more also buildings, and there are different transportation to help people to move from place to place. All right. Clear this one and go for next page and see the next activity. All right, so we know this. We have page 74. We have the 3 questions that we need to answer. So we have defined what the urban, what the suburb, and the rural means. So we have the 3 definition for the words. Urban is a city area, and suburb an area that's near the city, and then rural is an area that is far from the city. So we know urban is the city, and suburban is an area that is near city, but it's out a little bit. And then we have the rural, which is the area that is far from the city. Then when we say people need to drive to go to the closest town to do their shopping, for example. All right. What kind of community do you live in? Describe how the land is used. Use the word urban, suburban, or rural in your description. So if you're living in an urban, which is like a city, you can describe that you're living in a busy street, or busy area, that you have lots of streets, lots of tall buildings, and few parks nearby. But if you're living in a suburb, you can say that there's a big space, or kind of a good space, between you and other houses. The streets are not that wide, not many cars in the street. And if you're living in a rural area, you know that that will be more open lands, more farm around, and also commuting to the closest movie theater or shopping mall or something, that it might take like an hour or so to drive to that closest. So it depends where you live, or even if you live in an urban but you want to talk about other places, you can just go to the lesson, read what we read, and just get some information and write about it. So whatever you like, you can do. All right, let's see here. What makes your community special? Why would people want to live there? Write an ad for your community, focus on a land and its features. So something like that, you can talk about like your advertising. So you want to emphasize or talk and show all the good places that make your community unique and different. So you can, for example, talk about special features like the climate, the weather is beautiful in where you live. If you have mountains, it's always green all year round, or when it's winter, the mountains are white, so people can cover with snow, people can do lots of activity outdoor in the winter. Or if you live nearby oceans, so there would be lots of water activity, scuba diving, surfing, canoeing, if you have a lake. Or even if you live in nearby a desert, there would be lots of nature to see, different type of animals, and also plants that you can see. You should talk and make your community special. So you're talking about all the good things that you want people to come and visit and see in your community. So just enjoy it, get all this information, be creative, and you can put all things that you see that it make your community special and different than other places. All right. So you can start with like I live in, and you talk about it, and you can say it's then you can say a community that nearby a beach or close to the mountain. And you can talk also about buildings if you have lots of buildings. You can talk about where people do shop in your area. What kind of shopping is it? You live nearby a green open area, so people get to buy fresh fruits and crops and get fresh animals as vet if you have stuff like that. Or if you're nearby the beach, people do lots of water activity and swimming, and the weather is beautiful, so they get the best suntan. So be creative and describe your area or your community. All right, second graders, that was it for today's lesson, lesson 3. We learned about different communities, and we learned about 3 important words: urban, which is like a city; suburban, which is like an area which near the city; and then rural, which an area that's far from the city and has more open land and more open space. All right, that's it for today. Thank you.